At the bustling Skyline International Airport, the air buzzed with the hum of travelers rushing to catch their flights. Among them was Mia Thompson, a young woman in her mid-20s with a sharp mind and an eye for detail. She wasn't one of the passengers hurrying through the terminal. Instead, she worked behind the scenes as a baggage handler. It wasn't the glamorous job she had dreamed of when she was younger, but it paid the bills while she saved up to pursue her true passion, aerospace engineering. Despite the long hours and physical demands of the job, Mia found herself drawn to the mechanics of airplanes and the intricate systems that kept them flying safely. On this particular afternoon, Mia was stationed near the hangar, sorting luggage and ensuring everything was loaded onto the correct planes. The sun streamed through the large windows, casting golden streaks across the polished floors. As she worked, her ears picked up snippets of conversations from the people around her. Travelers discussing vacations, pilots reviewing flight plans, and ground staff exchanging casual banter. But then, something unusual caught her attention. Two men stood nearby, speaking in hushed tones. Their body language was tense, and they glanced around nervously, as if making sure no one was listening. Mia paused what she was doing, pretending to adjust a piece of luggage while straining to hear their conversation. "It's done," one of them muttered under his breath. "The private jet won't make it halfway." His companion nodded grimly, replying, "Good. Just make sure no one finds out until it's too late." They quickly slipped away, disappearing, into a restricted area marked with bold red signs warning unauthorized personnel to stay out. A chill ran down Mia's spine. What did they mean by the private jet? And why wouldn't it make it halfway? Her curiosity turned to alarm as she replayed their words in her head. Something about their tone and secrecy didn't sit right with her. She knew enough about aviation to understand that vague threats like these could have dire consequences. Still, she hesitated. Was she overreacting? Maybe they were just talking about some routine maintenance issue or a hypothetical scenario. But deep down, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. Determined to investigate, Mia followed the direction the two men had taken. She moved cautiously, sticking to the shadows and avoiding drawing attention to herself. Her heart pounded as she approached the restricted zone. Peering around the corner, she saw the men entering a small office adjacent to the hangar. Through the partially open door, she spotted them poring over blueprints of an aircraft. One of them pointed to a specific section of the diagram, and the other nodded approvingly. Though she couldn't hear their exact words, the seriousness of their expressions confirmed her suspicions. They weren't discussing anything innocent. As Mia retreated back to her post, her mind raced. Who were these men, and what were they planning? She scanned the terminal, searching for clues. That's when she noticed him. A tall, distinguished man surrounded by a group of assistants and security personnel. He wore an impeccably tailored suit and carried himself with an air of authority. It was Julian Hart, the billionaire entrepreneur whose face frequently appeared in magazines and on television screens. Known for his groundbreaking innovations in technology and business, Julian had recently made headlines for testifying against corporate corruption in a high-profile court case. His testimony had angered powerful adversaries, earning him both admiration and enemies. Mia watched as Julian prepared to board his private plane, which sat gleaming on the tarmac. The realization hit her like a lightning bolt. The men she had overheard must have been talking about his jet. If their plan succeeded, Julian and everyone else on board would be in grave danger. Panic surged through her veins, but she forced herself to think clearly. She couldn't let this happen. Not when she might be the only person who knew the truth. Summoning every ounce of courage, Mia sprinted toward the runway, weaving through the crowd of travelers and airport staff. Her sneakers slapped against the pavement as adrenaline coursed through her body. Security guards shouted after her, demanding to know what she was doing, but she ignored them. All that mattered was reaching Julian before it was too late. When she finally reached the boarding stairs leading up to the plane, she called out, with all the strength she could muster, "Mr. Hart, wait, your plane was sabotaged." The commotion caused heads to turn and Julian paused mid-step, his hand resting on the railing. For a moment there was silence as everyone stared at Mia, unsure whether to take her seriously. Some of Julian's security team stepped forward, ready to intervene, but Julian raised a hand to stop them. There was something earnest and urgent in Mia's voice that caught his attention. With a furrowed brow, he descended the stairs and approached her. "What do you mean?" he asked, his tone calm but probing. Breathless and trembling, Mia explained what she had overheard and described the suspicious behavior of the two men. She urged Julian to inspect the plane immediately, emphasizing the potential danger. Though skeptical, Julian trusted his instincts and ordered his crew to conduct a thorough examination. As technicians swarmed the aircraft, Mia waited anxiously, her hands clasped tightly together. Minutes later, the verdict came in. There was indeed evidence of tampering. A critical fault had been deliberately introduced into the fuel line, designed to cause catastrophic failure mid-flight. Julian turned to Mia, his expression a mix of shock and gratitude. "You saved my life," he said simply, his voice filled with awe. Cameras flashed as reporters gathered, eager to capture the unfolding drama. But Mia, overwhelmed by the sudden attention, slipped away quietly, disappearing into the throng of people. Little did she know, this single act of bravery would set off a chain of events that would change her life forever. The discovery of the sabotage sent shockwaves through the airport. Technicians and engineers swarmed around Julian Hart's private jet, their faces grim as they confirmed the extent of the damage. The fuel line had been tampered with in such a way that it would have failed shortly after takeoff, causing the plane to plummet from the sky. It was a chilling reminder of how fragile life could be, and how close Julian had come to losing his. As the news spread, reporters descended on the scene like vultures, eager to capture every detail of the dramatic near disaster. Julian stood at the edge of the chaos, his mind racing. He wasn't just a billionaire or a public figure. He was also someone who had spent years fighting corruption and unethical practices in the corporate world. His recent testimony in court had exposed several high-profile individuals involved in illegal activities, and he knew this act of sabotage was likely retribution for his efforts. But what struck him most was the fact that a complete stranger, a young woman named Mia, had intervened at the last possible moment to save him. He turned to look for her but found only an empty space where she had been standing moments before. She had vanished into the crowd, leaving behind no trace except the memory of her desperate warning. "Find her," Julian instructed his head of security, a stern man named Marcus. "I want to know everything about her." Marcus nodded and began organizing a team to track down the mysterious baggage handler who had just saved Julian's life. Meanwhile, Mia was already blocks away from the airport, her heart still pounding from the adrenaline rush. She hadn't expected things to escalate so quickly. In her mind, she had simply done what anyone else would have done if they suspected something was wrong. But now, as she walked briskly toward the bus stop, she couldn't help but feel uneasy. Reporters were everywhere, snapping photos and asking questions. Someone had even shouted her name, though she wasn't sure how they knew it. The thought of being thrust into the spotlight terrified her. All she wanted was to go home, crawl into bed, and forget the entire ordeal. When Mia finally arrived at her small apartment, an unassuming one-bedroom unit tucked above a corner store, she collapsed onto the couch, exhausted. Her phone buzzed incessantly with notifications, most of them from friends and family who had seen the breaking news on TV. One message, however, caught her eye. It was from an unknown number. "Ms. Thompson, please call me back. This is Marcus, head of Mr. Hart's security team." Mia hesitated, unsure whether to respond. Part of her felt obligated to cooperate, knowing Julian would want answers. But another part of her just wanted to disappear and avoid any further involvement. Before she could decide, there was a knock at her door. Startled, Mia peeked through the peephole and saw two men in suits standing outside. They introduced themselves as members of Julian's security team and politely requested a few minutes of her time. Reluctantly, Mia let them in. They asked detailed questions about what she had witnessed at the airport, taking careful notes as she recounted the events leading up to her intervention. Despite their professional demeanor, Mia couldn't shake the feeling that she was being scrutinized. By the time they left, promising to stay in touch, she felt more drained than ever. Over the next few days, life returned to some semblance of normalcy, or so Mia thought. She went back to work at the airport, trying to focus on her tasks while avoiding the curious stares of coworkers and passengers alike. News outlets continued to cover the story, speculating about the motives behind the sabotage and praising the heroic baggage handler who had thwarted the plot. Some articles even included grainy photos of Mia shouting at Julian on the tarmac, her face etched with urgency. Friends texted her screenshots, joking that she was practically famous now. But fame was the last thing Mia wanted. Then one evening, as Mia sat on her porch tinkering with her old car, a rusty sedan she affectionately called Bessie, a sleek black SUV pulled up in front of her building. She froze, watching as the driver stepped out and opened the rear door. Out emerged Julian Hart himself, dressed casually in jeans and a leather jacket. For a moment, Mia thought she was hallucinating. What was he doing here? Julian approached her with a warm smile, holding up his hands in a gesture of peace. "I hope you don't mind me stopping by," he said, his voice smooth and reassuring. "I wanted to thank you properly for what you did." Mia blinked, momentarily speechless. Sure," she managed to stammer. "Do you want to sit down?" They settled onto the creaky wooden chairs on her porch, the contrast between Julian's polished appearance and Mia's modest surroundings impossible to ignore. Yet, despite their differences, there was an ease to their conversation that surprised Mia. Julian listened intently as she explained how she had noticed the suspicious men and pieced together the potential threat. He didn't interrupt or dismiss her concerns, treating her with genuine respect. In return, Julian shared more about himself, not just the public persona everyone knew, but the man behind the headlines. He spoke about his passion for innovation and his belief in using technology to improve lives. He also opened up about the challenges he faced as a whistleblower, admitting that the sabotage attempt had shaken him deeply. "You reminded me that there are still good people in the world," he said earnestly. "People like you who put themselves on the line to do the right thing." As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the neighborhood, Mia found herself relaxing. In Julian's presence, there was no judgment, no pressure, just a sincere desire to connect. Before leaving, Julian handed her a business card embossed with the logo of his aerospace company. "If you're interested," he said, "I'd love for you to come visit our headquarters sometime. I think you'd be amazed by what we're working on." Mia accepted the card, her curiosity piqued. She hadn't expected anything like this when she shouted that warning weeks ago. Saving Julian's life had seemed like a fleeting act of bravery, not the beginning of something bigger. But as she watched his SUV drive away, she realized that maybe, just maybe, this was the start of a new chapter in her own journey. For the first time in days, Mia allowed herself to feel hopeful. Whatever came next, she knew one thing for certain. She had changed Julian Hart's life, and perhaps he might change hers too. The next morning, Mia woke up with a sense of anticipation she hadn't felt in years. Julian Hart's visit had left her feeling both inspired and slightly overwhelmed. She glanced at the business card he'd given her the night before, its sleek design and embossed logo catching the sunlight streaming through her window. It was hard to believe that someone like Julian, wealthy, successful, and larger than life, had taken such an interest in her. But as she replayed their conversation in her mind, she realized it wasn't just about gratitude. Julian saw something in her potential. Mia decided to take him up on his offer to visit his company's headquarters. After all, she reasoned, this could be the opportunity of a lifetime. Ever since she was a child, she'd dreamed of working in aerospace engineering, designing planes and systems that would make air travel safer and more efficient. However, life had thrown obstacles in her path. Financial struggles, family responsibilities, and self-doubt had kept those dreams at bay. Now, for the first time, there was a glimmer of hope that she might actually get closer to achieving them. A few days later, Mia found herself standing outside Heart Aerospace Technologies, a sprawling, state-of-the-art facility located on the outskirts of the city. The building gleamed under the bright sun, its glass walls reflecting the sky above. Employees bustled in and out, dressed in professional attire, clutching tablets and folders. Mia tugged nervously at the hem of her blouse, suddenly aware of how out of place she looked among these polished professionals. Her jeans and sneakers were a far cry from the tailored suits and designer shoes she saw around her. Before she could second-guess herself, a young woman approached her with a warm smile. "You must be Mia," she said, extending her hand. "I'm Claire, Mr. Hart's executive assistant. He's been expecting you." Claire led Mia inside, giving her a brief tour of the facility along the way. They passed labs filled with cutting-edge equipment, conference rooms where engineers debated blueprints, and even a massive hangar housing prototypes of futuristic aircraft. Everywhere Mia looked, innovation seemed to pulse through the air. For someone who loved aviation as much as she did, it felt like stepping into a dream. Finally, they arrived at Julian's office, a spacious room with floor-to-ceiling windows, offering panoramic views of the surrounding landscape. Julian stood up as soon as he saw Mia, greeting her with the same easy charm he'd shown during their porch conversation. "Welcome to Heart Aerospace," he said, gesturing for her to sit. "I'm glad you came." Over coffee, Julian explained why he had invited her here. He admired her quick thinking and attention to detail, the very qualities that had saved in his life, and believed she had untapped potential. He offered her a position within the company, not as a token gesture but as a genuine opportunity to contribute. "We're always looking for fresh perspectives," he told her. "People who can see problems others might miss. That's exactly what you did at the airport." Mia hesitated, unsure whether to accept. On one hand, this was everything she had ever wanted, a chance to work in aerospace engineering alongside some of the brightest minds in the industry. On the other hand, she worried about fitting in. She didn't have the formal education or experience most of the employees here did. What if she failed? What if she disappointed Julian? As if sensing her doubts, Julian leaned forward, his expression serious but encouraging. "Mia, I know you're capable of great things. You don't need a fancy degree to prove your worth. Trust me, I've learned that success isn't always about credentials. It's about passion, determination, and the ability to think differently. And you have all of those qualities in spades." His words struck a chord deep within her. Maybe she did belong here. Maybe she could make a difference. With a newfound resolve, Mia accepted the job offer, agreeing to start the following week. As she left the office, Julian shook her hand firmly and gave her a reassuring smile. "This is just the beginning," he said. "I have a feeling you're going to surprise us all." Mia's first day at Heart Aerospace was a whirlwind of introductions, orientations, and training sessions. She was assigned to a team working on advanced safety systems for commercial aircraft, a project that resonated deeply with her after the sabotage incident. Her colleagues were initially skeptical, whispering behind her back about how she'd landed the job without the usual qualifications. Some assumed Julian had hired her out of pity or obligation, while others speculated that their relationship was more personal than professional. But Mia refused to let the gossip deter her. Instead, she threw herself into her work, determined to earn their respect. She spent long hours studying technical manuals, observing tests, and asking endless questions. Her natural curiosity and problem-solving skills quickly became apparent. During one brainstorming session, she pointed out a flaw in a proposed design that no one else had noticed, a minor oversight that could have led to catastrophic consequences. Her insight earned nods of approval from even the most critical team members. Word of her contributions began to spread throughout the company. Engineers started seeking her input, impressed by her ability to identify issues and propose practical solutions. Supervisors took notice too, praising her dedication and resourcefulness. Slowly but surely, Mia carved out a place for herself at Heart Aerospace, proving that she belonged there every step of the way. Julian kept a close eye on her progress, checking in occasionally to offer guidance and encouragement. Their interactions remained professional, though there was an undeniable connection between them, a mutual respect and admiration that went beyond boss and employee. Rumors continued to swirl about the nature of their relationship, fueled by tabloids eager to turn their story into a scandal. But neither Mia nor Julian paid much attention to the speculation. They were focused on bigger things, building safer skies and pushing the boundaries of innovation. As months passed, Mia grew more confident in her role. She thrived in the collaborative environment, learning from her colleagues and contributing ideas that challenged conventional thinking. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of testing, she found herself alone in the lab with Julian. They talked about the challenges of balancing ambition with ethics, sharing stories of failures and triumphs. For the first time, Mia realized how much they had in common, not just their passion for aviation, but also their desire to leave the world better than they found it. "You remind me of myself when I was starting out," Julian admitted, his tone reflective. "Back then, everyone doubted me too. But I trusted my instincts, and look where it got me." Mia smiled, feeling a sense of pride she hadn't experienced in years. She wasn't just surviving at Heart Aerospace, she was thriving. And as she looked ahead to the future, she knew this was only the beginning of what she could achieve. Mia's journey at Heart Aerospace Technologies was nothing short of transformative. What began as a tentative step into unfamiliar territory soon blossomed into a defining chapter of her life. Each day brought new challenges, but also opportunities to grow and prove herself. She poured her heart into her work, driven by the belief that she could make a tangible difference in aviation safety. Her early struggles with self-doubt faded as she gained confidence, not just in her abilities, but in the value she brought to the team. One of the most significant milestones came when Mia was assigned to lead a project aimed at developing an advanced monitoring system for aircraft engines. The goal was ambitious: create a real-time diagnostic tool capable of detecting potential failures before they became critical. It was a task that required not only technical expertise, but also creativity and perseverance. Most engineers on the team had years of experience under their belts, yet Julian insisted that Mia take charge. "You've got the vision," he told her during one of their meetings. "Now it's time to bring it to life." At first, Mia felt overwhelmed. Leading a group of seasoned professionals was daunting, especially since many of them still harbored doubts about her qualifications. Some openly questioned whether she was ready for such responsibility. But instead of letting their skepticism discourage her, Mia used it as fuel to push harder. She spent countless nights researching, sketching designs, and running simulations. When setbacks arose, and they inevitably did, she approached them with resilience, viewing each failure as a stepping stone toward success. Her dedication paid off. During a pivotal presentation to senior management, Mia unveiled a prototype of the monitoring system. Using data collected from previous incidents, including Julian's own sabotage scare, she demonstrated how the technology could predict malfunctions with remarkable accuracy. The room fell silent as she explained its functionality, highlighting features that made it both innovative and cost-effective. When she finished speaking, there was a moment of stunned silence before applause erupted. Even her harshest critics couldn't deny the brilliance of her work. The project catapulted Mia into the spotlight within the company. Her name became synonymous with ingenuity and determination. Engineers who once doubted her now sought her advice, and executives praised her leadership. Julian beamed with pride whenever her achievements were mentioned, often citing her as proof that passion and grit could overcome any obstacle. Yet despite her growing fame, Mia remained humble. She credited her success to the support of her team and the lessons she'd learned along the way. Outside of work, Mia's relationship with Julian continued to evolve. While their interactions remained professional, there was an undeniable bond between them, a shared understanding forged through mutual respect and admiration. They often met for coffee or dinner, discussing everything from industry trends to personal aspirations. Julian admired Mia's authenticity and unwavering commitment to her principles, qualities he found rare in the corporate world. For her, Mia appreciated his mentorship and encouragement, which had given her the courage to pursue her dreams. However, Their closeness didn't go unnoticed. Whispers circulated among employees and media outlets alike, speculating about the nature of their relationship. Tabloids ran sensational headlines like "Billionaire Boss Sparks Romance with Heroic Employee" and "Is Love Taking Off at Heart?" Aerospace? Photographers camped outside the office, hoping to catch a candid moment between them. At first, Mia tried to ignore the attention, focusing on her work and keeping a low profile. But the constant scrutiny began to weigh on her. One evening, after a particularly grueling day, Mia confided in Julian about how the rumors were affecting her. "I didn't sign up for this," she admitted, her voice tinged with frustration. "All I wanted was to do my job and make a difference. Now everyone's making assumptions about us, and it feels suffocating." Julian listened intently, his expression thoughtful. "I understand," he said finally. "Believe me, I've dealt with my share of gossip over the years. But we can't let it dictate our lives. What matters is what we know to be true. As long as we're honest with ourselves and each other, the rest doesn't matter." His words reassured her, reminding her to focus on what truly mattered. Over time, Mia learned to tune out the noise, refusing to let external opinions define her. She threw herself even deeper into her work, channeling her energy into projects that aligned with her values. Under her leadership, Heart Aerospace launched several groundbreaking initiatives, earning accolades from industry leaders and aviation authorities worldwide. As Mia's reputation grew, so did her influence. She became a vocal advocate for ethical practices in engineering, urging companies to prioritize safety over profit margins. Speaking at conferences and panels, she shared her story of perseverance, inspiring others to pursue their passions despite adversity. Her speeches resonated with audiences, particularly young women hoping to break into male-dominated fields. Mia took pride in being a role model, using her platform to encourage diversity and inclusion in STEM careers. Julian watched her transformation with quiet admiration. He saw how far she had come since that fateful day at the airport, not just professionally but personally. The timid baggage handler who had risked everything to save his life had evolved into a confident leader, unafraid to challenge norms and champion change. In many ways, she reminded him of himself when he was younger, fiercely determined and unapologetically authentic. Their partnership extended beyond the workplace, too. On weekends, they sometimes explored the city together, visiting museums, attending concerts, or simply enjoying quiet dinners. These moments allowed them to connect on a deeper level, sharing stories and laughter without the pressures of work looming over them. Though neither of them explicitly defined their relationship, it was clear that they shared a unique connection, one built on trust, respect, and a shared vision for the future. By the end of her third year at Heart Aerospace, Mia had achieved more than she ever thought possible. Her contributions had not only saved lives but also reshaped the aviation industry. Awards lined her office shelves and invitations to prestigious events flooded her inbox. Yet despite her accomplishments, Mia remained grounded. She never forgot where she came from or the people who had supported her along the way. During a company-wide celebration honoring her latest achievement, a patent for a revolutionary safety protocol, Julian took the stage to deliver a heartfelt speech. "When I first met Mia," he began, his voice filled with emotion, "I saw someone who embodied courage and integrity, someone willing to speak up when it mattered most. Today, she stands as a testament to what can be achieved when talent meets determination. She has changed this company, this industry, and yes, even my life." As the audience erupted in applause, Mia looked out at the sea of faces, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. She had started as an outsider, unsure of her place in the world. But now, surrounded by colleagues who respected her and a mentor who believed in her, she knew she had found her purpose. And though the road ahead would undoubtedly bring new challenges, she faced them with confidence, knowing she was exactly where she was meant to be. Years had passed since Mia Thompson first stepped into Heart Aerospace Technologies, a young woman unsure of her place in the world, but driven by an unyielding passion for aviation. Now, standing on the grand stage of the annual Global Aviation Summit, she felt like a different person entirely. The room was packed with industry leaders, government officials, and reporters eager to hear about the latest advancements in aviation safety. Cameras flashed as Mia walked up to the podium, her name projected in bold letters on a massive screen behind her. She took a deep breath, surveying the audience before beginning her speech. "Aviation connects us," she began, her voice steady and clear. "It brings people together, bridging distances and cultures, but it also carries immense responsibility. Every time someone steps onto a plane, they trust that we've done everything possible to ensure their safety. And today, I'm proud to say we've taken another step toward fulfilling that promise." Mia went on to explain the groundbreaking technology her team had developed, a predictive maintenance system capable of identifying potential engine failures weeks or even months before they occurred. It wasn't just innovative, it was revolutionary. Airlines around the world were already implementing it, drastically reducing the risk of catastrophic accidents. As she spoke, images of the system's interface appeared on the screen, accompanied by testimonials from pilots and engineers who credited it with saving lives. The crowd listened intently, captivated by her words and the tangible impact of her work. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. People rose to their feet, clapping and cheering as if they couldn't contain their admiration. For Mia, the moment was surreal. Growing up, she never imagined she'd stand here, addressing some of the most influential figures in the aviation industry. Yet here she was, no longer the shy baggage handler, but a trailblazer whose contributions had reshaped modern air travel. After the event, Julian approached her backstage, a proud smile lighting up his face. "You were incredible out there," he said, pulling her into a warm embrace. "I always knew you'd change the world." Mia laughed softly, still buzzing from the adrenaline of the moment. "I couldn't have done any of this without you," she replied sincerely. "You believed in me when no one else did?" Julian shook his head, dismissing her gratitude. "No, Mia. You did the hard work. All I did was give you a chance. The rest is all you." Their bond had only grown stronger over the years. While their professional relationship remained at the forefront, their personal connection had deepened as well. They shared countless memories, late-night brainstorming sessions, celebratory dinners after project milestones, and quiet moments reflecting on how far they'd come. Though rumors about them persisted, neither paid much attention anymore. What mattered was the mutual respect and understanding they had cultivated, a partnership rooted in trust and shared values. Later that evening, during a celebratory gala, hosted by Heart Aerospace, Julian took the stage once again. This time, however, his announcement caught everyone off guard. After thanking the team for their tireless efforts, he turned to Mia, who stood near the front of the room. "There's someone I need to acknowledge tonight," he said, his tone serious yet filled with warmth. "Someone who has not only saved my life but has also transformed this company and this industry in ways I never thought possible." The room fell silent as all eyes turned to Mia. She shifted uncomfortably, unsure of what Julian was about to say. He continued, his voice resonating through the hall. "When I hired Mia, I saw potential, but I'll admit I didn't fully grasp just how extraordinary she truly is. Her brilliance, determination, and unwavering commitment to doing what's right have set a new standard for excellence, not just within our walls but across the entire field of aerospace engineering." He paused, letting his words sink in before delivering the unexpected news. "As many of you know, I've been considering stepping down as CEO of Heart Aerospace. Running this company has been the greatest privilege of my life, but it's time for fresh leadership, someone who embodies the future of innovation and integrity. That's why I'm naming Mia Thompson as my successor." The room erupted in gasps, followed by enthusiastic applause. Mia's jaw dropped, her mind struggling to process what she'd just heard. Julian wanted her to lead Heart Aerospace. It was almost too much to comprehend. She looked at him, searching for confirmation, and found nothing but genuine conviction in his eyes. "This isn't charity," Julian added, addressing the murmurs of surprise rippling through the crowd. "Mia has earned this position through sheer talent and relentless dedication. She represents everything this company stands for: progress, ethics, and a relentless pursuit of excellence. Under her leadership, I have no doubt Heart Aerospace will continue to soar to new heights. Tears welled up in Mia's eyes as she processed the magnitude of Julian's decision. Leading a multi-billion-dollar company was a daunting prospect, but she realized she wasn't alone. She had a team that supported her, mentors who believed in her, and a foundation of hard-earned experience to guide her. In the weeks that followed, Julian worked closely with Mia to ensure a smooth transition. He introduced her to key stakeholders, briefed her on ongoing projects, and offered advice whenever she needed it. Despite stepping down as CEO, he remained involved in an advisory capacity, ensuring the company stayed true to its mission. Their dynamic shifted slightly, but the core of their relationship remained unchanged. They were partners, united by a shared vision for the future. Under Mia's leadership, Heart Aerospace flourished. She implemented policies promoting diversity and inclusion, ensuring that voices from all backgrounds were heard and valued. She spearheaded initiatives aimed at making air travel more accessible and sustainable, aligning the company with global efforts to combat climate change. Her focus on ethical practices inspired other corporations to follow suit, sparking a wave of positive change throughout the industry. Meanwhile, the sabotage attempt against Julian became a distant memory, but not forgotten. Investigators eventually traced the plot back to a rival corporation seeking revenge for Julian's whistleblowing. Those responsible were brought to justice, vindicating Julian's fight against corruption. The incident served as a reminder of the dangers posed by greed and dishonesty, reinforcing Mia's belief in the importance of transparency and accountability. On a crisp autumn morning, several years after taking the helm of Heart Aerospace, Mia found herself standing on the rooftop of the company's headquarters. Below her stretched the bustling cityscape, alive with energy and possibility. She thought back to the day she had shouted that desperate warning at the airport, the day her life changed forever. Back then, she never could have predicted where her journey would lead. But now, looking out at the horizon, she felt a profound sense of fulfillment. She had achieved her dreams, not just for herself, but for the countless passengers who flew safer skies because of her work. And though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, she faced them with confidence, knowing she had the strength and support to overcome anything. As the sun rose higher in the sky, casting a golden glow over the city, Mia smiled. She had started as a baggage handler with big dreams and a brave heart. Now she was a leader shaping the future of aviation, one flight at a time.